1953. Dunmore mchales won their first senior championship since 1912. The Green Cinema had opened shortly before this, and the proprietor Jim Finnegan commissioned Joe Gilmer of Brickens to film the county final against Oughterard. Michael Halliday won a senior medal in 1912, and his son Jimmy was the only descendant on the 1953 team. The team lined out as follows: Brendan Glynn in goal, full back line Michael Welsh, Mike O'Healy, Patsy Ryder, Brian Lynch, Jack Mahan and Brian Mahan in the half back line. Centre field was Colm Acton, Peter Tierney. Half forward line was Albert Kelly, Michael Anthony Graney, Bertie Coleman, and the full forward line Paddy Stanton, Jimmy Halliday and Michael Finnegan. The square in Dunmore was a busy place on the Sunday of the county final in 1953. There were few cars around at the time, but they were all pressed into action on the day. Jim Finnegan of the Green Cinema commissioned the film, and it was taken by Joe Gilmer of Brickens. Joe Canny and Bernie Steed are the young lads, with Frank Kilgariff at the back. Jerry Steed and Mac Rush, with 1912 veteran Pat Toher in the background. Mona Halliday, Michael Halliday, Bill Mullen and friends, and in the foreground Mickey and Roddy Flaherty and Joe Canny. Tom Gilmer, Jack Halliday, Michael Finnegan, Brendan Glenn and Jack Mahan. That may be one of the Murphys of Chapel Street. The cars leave for Tuam, and there's Bill Mullen and Desi Donlan. The next car to leave contains Brendan Glenn in the front. The Kelly family in the square. Their grandfather Charles Kelly was secretary of the Dunmore mchales in the 1890s. The Dunmore supporters arrive in Tuam Stadium. This is a big occasion for them. Bartley O'Malley in the Dickey Bow with James Fox of Dunmore will be presenting the trophy today. And there's Michael Halliday on the right. He was on the winning 1912 team.
Danny Kelly's brass band prepared to lead the teams in the parade. Oughterard, backboned by 5 Keogh brothers, are the favourites, having been narrowly beaten by Tuam in the final of 1952. Hon Keogh played with the plaster cast on his left arm, having broken it some weeks earlier. James Fox gets the game underway. Conditions in Tuam Stadium are windy and showery, and a lot of the play is scrappy. Oughterard are first to score with the 14-yard free from Tom McHugh. Dunmore are quick to respond, with Peter Tierney setting up Michael Anthony Graney for a punch point to leave the sides level. Oughterard have an acute angle free, but this time McHugh sends it wide. At this stage, Peter Tierney, Jack Mahan and Colm Acton were lording it in the middle of the field, but in the initial stages they had several wides, and with the Keogh brothers always threatening, they needed to put some scores on the board. The deadlock was eventually broken when the ball comes to Jimmy Halliday, who pointed to give Dunmore the lead. After the Dunmore backs had fouled, Tom McHugh took the sides level with a pointed free. Dunmore had 2 wides from 50s before Bertie Coleman put them ahead with a point from play. Then came the turning point of the match. Michael Anthony Graney fields well, passes to Bertie Coleman. He transfers it to the in-rushing Michael Finnegan, who sends it to the back of the net. Richard Murphy of the Green enjoyed that score. Just on the stroke of half-time, Graney was on target again to lead the score. Dunmore 1-4 to 2 points for Luke Gerard. The second half was a low-scoring affair, with Jimmy Halliday finishing to the net for a spectacular goal. That footage is now missing from the film. The Tuam Herald said that it was the forwards that won the day. Peter Tierney, whose brother Noel went on to win 3 All-Ireland titles in the next decade, was the master of midfield, popping up in defence and attack. Colm Acton was a perfect foil for Tierney, and up front it was the full forward line of Paddy Staunton, Jimmy Halliday and Michael Finnegan who clinched the game for Dunmore. The full backline of Walsh, Healy and Ryder practically held Luke Gerard scoreless from play, and Jack Mahan was a stalwart in the half back line. Albert Kelly and Michael Anthony Graney were always dangerous up front, while Bertie Coleman played a brave game despite injury. Brendan Glynn was rock solid in goal, with Brian Lynch and Brian Mahan stalwart in defence. Late in the game, Peter Tierney and Tom McHugh exchanged points to leave the final tally Dunmore 2-5, Luke Gerard 4 points.
Mary Halliday, later Mary Coleman and Ollie O'Shea celebrate the Dunmore victory, while in front of them the Collins sisters from Barrett Street look on. Canon Mooney gets ready for the presentation. The tall girl in the crowd is Kathleen O'Malley, later Kathleen O'Loughlin, and bottom right are Pete and Pat Finnegan from Ballymoney. This was the first time that a county football final had been filmed in Galway, and the team are aware of the camera and get into position. Even though it was only a year old, the trophy came apart from the bottom, and after running repairs, all was ready for the camera. And so Dunmore had bridged a gap of 41 years to win the county title once again. The Frank Fox Trophy replaced the Crean Cup of the previous year, and it was presented by James Fox, whose son Frank had played with Dunmore and had won All-Ireland Junior, Senior and Railway Cups with Galway, the senior coming in 1934. Canon Mooney made his speech and the rains came down, the umbrellas came up, but luckily the shower was short-lived, and finally the coveted trophy was presented to Brian Mahan. That's Donald Murphy of Chapel Street. The old mchales banner from the 1890s, presented by the Nestor family. There's JJ on the bottom left, who captained Dunmore and was on the winning team of 1902. He's at the back with the ball. On the left, Michael Halliday. He won a championship in 1912. Going from front to back, you have Michael Healy, Brendan Glenn, Brian Lynch. The young lad is possibly Michael Halliday. Peter Tierney, Michael Welsh Jr. Birmingham, Michael Finnegan, Colm Acton, Paddy Coleman, Johnny Gilmer, Jimmy Halliday, Paddy Staunton, Brian Mahan, Patsy Ryder, the trainer Teddy Flynn, Frank Kilgariff, Jack Mahan, Michael Anthony Graney, Bill Mullen, Bertie Coleman, John Rush, Brendan Nestor, Albert Kelly, John Joe Howley and Jimmy Graney. The young lad in the front is Seamus Leedon, who went on to win every honour in the game. Nobby Mullen is there. Frank Kilgariff. And some of the supporters with the old mchales banner. The civilian in the bottom middle is James Nestor, who was secretary of the mchales in 1952-53. And three of the young lads at the front are Vincent Graney, Michael Sharkey and Seamus Leedon.